What's up, nerds? Welcome back. Let's check in today with a young man who likes to wear elf shoes and go by a bird's name with Robin number 9. So I actually haven't done a review for this series in I don't even remember how long. I don't remember what the last issue actually reviewed was. I know it was during this whole like tournament thing that he was in, but I think it was when it had just started. So now I'm here at the end of it. So let's just kind of pick back up into it because I actually did like what happened in this story. And if you're wondering why I said he wears elf shoes, it's because they gave him these like shoes that have, I guess they're supposed to be like a point. It just kind of reminds me of like the Santa's elves, how they like point upward. So I mean that's kind of what I see every time I look at his shoes. I'm like, those damn elf shoes. If they would just change that, I would be fine with the rest of the costume, I guess. But that little elf shoe thing is what kills me every time. Anyway, so let's kind of pick back up. If you will remember, Damian is in a fighting competition on Lazarus Island with this woman who went by the name of Mother Soul. Then he found out that's his grandmother. So this is where we're actually picking up, where her like full plan has finally been unveiled, because no, Damian did not win the contest. He actually lost to Connor Hawke, which I guess makes sense. But he lost to him, and then a demon was summoned that was going to basically take Connor's form, like take his body and shit. And so that's kind of what she's kind of talking about here, that the demon, the Lazarus demon, is going to take over Connor's body. And she says, we needed to know without a shadow of a doubt who was the deadliest fighter in the world. Once my demon merges with Hawk's body, he will be indestructible. Then my Lazarus demon will feed on the rest of the fighters here. They came to this place expecting to find glory, but instead they will be fuel for the demon to grow in strength. And then she goes on to say, like, your grandfather, my son, believed that merely cutting down Earth's population would be enough to restore the world to its former self. But I know the whole world must burn first, purge itself of the disease afflicting it. And my Lazarus demon will do what Ra's al Ghul could never allow himself to do. So this is where he's saying, like, well, if I beat your demon, then you finally shut up. But when he punches it, he comes to find out that even touching it burns. Like, it burns, I'm assuming, like a demon probably would. Anyway, so he's saying that like he's trying to stop it because like they're over there also, it's Ravager and Flatline. They're fighting some of the like guards and shit, and they're telling him, or what is it that Rose says? There's no way off the island. Mother Soul torched the ships, and Flatline is saying like I'd really like to not be that demon's brunch. So he's saying like I'm trying to stop him, but apparently even kicking him burns. So I guess it burns through his shoes without actually burning his shoes off. So she's saying like he's untouchable, and with each step he's just going to keep getting hotter and hotter until he's like the surface of the sun. So that's where he keeps trying to fight against it, but then it like catches his leg and like slams him on the ground. And this part I couldn't tell if Damien just jumped out of the way or if the force of the flames like sent him flying or something, but he does go flying pretty far and crash into the thing where he's just kind of like knocked out, or mostly knocked out. He's still slightly conscious. So this is where Mother Soul is saying, like, finish Hawk, kill anyone who stands in your way, my Lazarus demon. So as he's like lying there, he's kind of like whispering, or I guess muttering out to his mother and father, saying like, I failed and everything like that. And he's saying like the Lazarus demon is too strong. I couldn't beat it. I couldn't beat Hawk. And then if you will remember, he's been seeing like an apparition of Alfred, because Alfred's dead, so he keeps seeing him in like his mind and everything. And so he's telling him like, you can do this, like you just need to get up and shit like that. So he's telling him, I can't, Pennyworth, I'm sorry. So he says, Master Damien, do you remember what your father's first step in becoming Batman was? So he starts kind of like recounting and saying like his parents' death, he made a vow. And then he's saying like, okay, and what happened after that? He says he traveled the globe, learned the ways of the world, trained with its greatest masters. Then my father returned to Gotham. You were there. He had his family's money and a plan. He thought that the skills he had learned were enough to fight Gotham's crime, but he was wrong. So we all remember from like Batman's origin, how he came to be the Batman. He went and trained, and then he went out to try and fight, but he ended up getting his ass kicked, and then he just kind of like, limped back home. Basically, we can see where like he crashed the car and shit. And then yeah, there was that famous scene that we all remember where he's sitting in the chair and he's talking to a bust of his father, saying like, I failed you, I failed the city and all of that. Says he felt that he had failed the vow he made to his parents. He couldn't make Gotham's dark side fear him. And that's when, yes, the bat comes crashing in, lands on the bust, and then it's saying like he needed something else. He needed a symbol, and that's when it all clicked into place. He needed a symbol to strike fear. So he's saying like then he became a bat, and he also picked up a robin. So we kind of see like that, and all throughout like the flashbacks and everything, when it was like young Bruce, they kind of like had the speech bubbles coming from him as though Damian was kind of like walking through those steps himself. Anyway, so he's saying, "I'm not my father. I failed." So Alfred says, "The bat was merely the inspiration, Damian. It was not his first step." So he says, "What are you prattling on about?" And this part, I was like, "What is he talking about?" And then I saw this, I was like, "Okay, I'm Joshua Williamson. I'm gonna give you some credit. I'm gonna let you finish. I'm gonna let you finish because he actually did something. I was like, oh, okay, that's actually kind of cool. So he says like, what was his? And then he remembers the bell. He says he rang the bell for you to come and help him. So that's where he's telling him my father's first step in becoming Batman was asking for help. So that's what I'm saying. I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? That is a good point. Like he was sitting there bleeding out, and even in the comic, like he said, I could just let myself stay here and bleed out and die, or I can ring the bell and Alfred will come in and stitch me up. So that really was like his first step in actually becoming Batman was to ring the little bell and have Alfred come and like patch him back up. So that's where we see this whole like ringing sound effect as he's getting up and like putting some of his blood around himself. And the R one, like obviously that makes sense, R for Robin. So that one's okay. But the one that he does around his eyes is a little bit weird because he just does like two circles. So it just kind of looks funny. Like when you actually see it, like he didn't even finish one of them around his eye. So that's why I was like, okay, the R is okay, but the ones around the eyes was a bit funny. And if you'll notice, like look at the shoes. Like I said, you see that little point up. Like I get it, it's supposed to be like a spike, but it just reminds me of elf shoes. Anyway, so it's at least they did make them green. I guess I'll give them that. So he says, "We've died enough on this island. I've seen you all battle, and I know you are great fighters. You came here to prove something to yourselves, but you were tricked by Mother Soul. We can stop her and her demon. We have all fought each other, but now I ask that we fight together." So this is where Ravager's like, oh, finally. So I guess she was waiting for him to do something like that. And then Mother Soul is saying, like, this is hopeless. If you really believe you can rally these bloodthirsty heathens to your side, then you have lost again. So he's saying, like, yeah, she's right. I can't win unless, like, y'all help me. So he says, what do you say? Should we get the hell out of here or what? So they all just kind of, like, look at each other, and then they do that thing where they all just kind of, like, in unison, they're like, fuck yeah. So they all get ready to go and fight, and he comes up with his plan, telling like all the people, okay, if you died in the first 2 rounds, then y'all go take on like the guards and shit. The rest of us, like the finalists, will actually go and take down the demon. So that's where he says, like, thank you to Pennyworth or whatever. And he looks back and doesn't see him, so he does that whole thing where he just kind of like, that kind of thing, like in the shows or in the movies, where it's like, was there really a spirit there, or was it just me finding my confidence type of thing? So whatever, cute. So they go and they start trying to like fight the demon, and Rose is saying like, hitting it burns, right? How are we supposed to fight it? So he says, it's not whole yet. It's fresh out of the pit, still forming. Every time my strikes connected, I noticed pieces of it splattered off. It's still liquid until it gets to Hawke, so we take turns hitting it, break it apart piece by piece. So he basically tells Black Swan like to get him off balance, and then he has, what's the kid's name? Well, he tells Drenched, the one from like, who's like a hybrid of like an Atlantean and one of the people from the Trench. So he has him shock him. Well, the kid's name is XXL, which I will never remember, I don't think. Anyway, so he tells Ravager to go and like cut it, and then he notices that her sword actually, like, the metal hurts it. So this is where Flatline goes in, and she thinks, oh, okay, I'm just gonna pull out his heart, but if you remember, he's basically like walking lava. So yeah, she just burns the shit out of her hand, and he goes to kind of like help her out to make sure she's okay. And then that's when Respawn comes and like wraps one of his chains around the damn thing's neck, which of course, since it's metal, it starts to get really hot. And he's saying, it's going to burn the chain. I can't. And then Robin comes up and like grabs it too. He says, we can. Its head is the weakness. So Flatline is like, all right, then we take its head. And that's when Rose also comes up. They all like grab onto the chain, but Rose comes up. She's like, all right, you two, stop flirting and let's pull and take this shit down. So they all pull together, and yeah, they manage to splatter the damn thing's head off. So very nicely done, kids. So they kind of just stand there like triumphantly, and Robin says next. So that's where Hawke starts like waking up and shit just in time. And then Rose goes up to him and says, take it easy, Hawke. A demon ripped a hole in you. He's like, really? So he's asking, what else did I miss? And then, of course, Mother Soul starts freaking out. She's saying, like, do y'all have any idea what you've just done, you little brats? Like, the world needed to be purged in flame and all this shit, and you just, like, completely destroyed that. So she says, you did this. You ruined everything. What do you have to say for yourself? So he just does that little sound effect where he's like, tch. And then she says, "Oh, okay, yeah, it's time that you were taught a lesson." So she like hits him with flames from her own mouth, and then we see him starting to be enveloped in them, and then he just all of a sudden realizes like, "Oh, it stopped." So he looks around and sees he's in a desert, and then all of a sudden someone comes up behind him. So he turns around, and of course he's shocked to see his grandfather, Ra's al Ghul, or back when I can't remember what his original name was, but back before he was the demon's head, and he's basically telling him like, "Yeah, I'm here to be the Sultan's like doctor or whatever. This is my wife and this is my mother." He's like, "Can you please direct us to where my horse can rest and find water?" So he just kind of like looks at him all shocked. He's like, "Ra's al Ghul?" So apparently he's been sent back into the past, and we'll see how exactly it is he's going to come back to the future. Because I really didn't see that coming. I didn't know this bitch could breathe fire and send people back in time, but apparently that's a power that she has. So pretty good power to have, I guess. If you really want to get rid of somebody, that'd be a hell of a way to do it, right? So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening from that. Like I said, I don't know how exactly he's going to get home because I don't know if she's just always had that ability. Like, I mean, as we saw, she was right there, but she looks older and more decrepit that we saw like right there in the past than she does in like the present. So I don't know. We'll see what's actually going to happen. Will she be the one to like help send him home? Will it have to be his grandfather who doesn't know he's his grandfather yet? I don't know. Some things are just kind of up in the air, but I mean, I didn't really know what all to expect from this tournament. I definitely didn't expect them to summon a demon. So that was a little bit of a surprise, but overall I liked it. And like I said, I did like that thing in there. That was mainly the reason why I made this review, was that part with the bell. I was like, okay, that's actually kind of cool. I'd never thought about that. So I guess that does make sense. One of his first like acts as Batman, like actually Batman, once he had his, you know, his symbol and everything and realized, okay, I have to become a bat. The first thing he did was call for Alfred to come and like stop the bleeding on him. So made sense. Cool little like storytelling convention, help teach Robin, Damian something. So I mean, you know, I liked it. Overall, I did enjoy the issue. That's all I can say. I just, again, if y'all can change anything, just change his shoes. Take off the little point. It just looks funny. You know what I mean? I know we were trying to go for something badass, like, oh, he's covered in spikes all over. It looks kind of weird. At least from my opinion, it looks kind of weird. So I don't know, if I could change anything, it would just be that. Overall, the story itself is all right. I'm actually enjoying it. So we'll see what ends up coming from this story. But I don't know if anybody out there has been keeping up with this. If you have any thoughts on it, do feel free to share them with me below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you have the notifications turned on. And if you'd like to share out the video, well, I do appreciate that. And if you're done here, then go and read a book. Maybe this one, I don't know. And if not, well, then I'll see you on my next video.